When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
Tucker, you are not the father. This has to be wrong!
After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
If it was okay to have anal sex.
No apologies.
You were talking about things that probably you shouldn't talk about.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I finally had my own show!
At one point, your ancestors owned slaves.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off, actually.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with your host, Alex Stein, starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to After Hours with your host, Alex Stein, right here on Real America's Voice. And I wonder what we should talk about tonight. I mean, there's just been such a slow news weekend. I don't know why we're going to war with Iran, all right? And I love Donald Trump. And technically, he didn't lie because he said no new wars. He only started one war. So I think that he's still a very honorable and honest man. But I'm a little frustrated right now because I am very anti-war. And I'm starting to see that America is going back to a similar place that we were just in 20 years ago during 9/11 when everybody was all pro-war. And so it took literally 25 years for the American people to totally turn anti-war, and now we're back to square one, going and invading the Middle East. And honestly, Donald Trump says there's a clear objective. We'll get into that after we play this clip.
Let me provide a brief update on Operation Epic Fury. Today, the United States military continues to carry out large-scale combat operations in Iran to eliminate the grave threats posed to America by this terrible terrorist regime. Following our obliteration of Iran's nuclear program in Operation Midnight Hammer a short while ago, we warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up, but they ignored those warnings.
Well, that was a great 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump, basically just telling us about Operation Epic Fury. It's kind of a tongue twister. Now I want to go to Pete Hegseth giving us, I guess, his commentary on this war.
Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change.
Now, he said something there. He said a couple things there that kind of made me feel some sort of way. But I think the first one he said is that these people shouted death to America and death to Israel. Well, you know what? I know that they're not American citizens, but here in America, we have the First Amendment. Well, people are allowed to say whatever the hell they want. I mean, I thought that's what the First Amendment was all about. So the fact that they said a bunch of stuff, I'm like, okay, is that really necessary to go start a war with them? And then he says something very interesting at the very end of that short clip. Pete Hegseth says this is not a regime change war. So, I mean, I am just scratching my head constantly. 1 minute, we're bombing Iran because they have nuclear capabilities, and we wipe that out. The next minute, we got to take out the Ayatollah Khamenei because the people of Iran are protesting, and they've killed 30,000 protesters, which I think is kind of cute because before this, those are the same people that were chanting death to America and death to Israel. But now all of a sudden, we want to go out there and do a regime change so we can protect those citizens that don't even like us and that want to kill us. So I'm really starting to get frustrated on what the clear objectives are in this war. And I'm sure there are some. I just don't know them yet. But what is really making me just scratch my head even more, I mean, it's giving me danger if I'm scratching my head so much. Then I got to see this clip of Marco Rubio saying that we had to start this war because Israel was going to do it anyway. And we knew that we would be retaliated against if Israel started the war. So We preemptively struck them in a defensive manner. I don't understand how that works in a logical way. We are the first to strike, but we're leading the strikes in a defensive manner. I would just think that that's playing offense, but what do I know? I'm just a talk show host. I'm not getting paid the big bucks like Marco Rubio. Let's hear him talk and explain what's going on.
The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come.
So you don't even have to watch the whole clip of Marco Rubio just basically spouting out a bunch of word salad. But the point he's trying to make is that Israel was going to attack Iran regardless. So it was in America's best interest to have all of our ducks in a row because we knew that Iran was going to retaliate against Israel's biggest ally, America. Now, I don't think that he's lying. I think that he is telling the God's honest truth because I do think Iran would have attacked us if it was Israel that was the lone gunman to attack them. But what's frustrating is Israel, who wants this war because they do need regime change, because they want to dominate the Middle East, and that's their right, I guess. It's frustrating because at the end of the day, I believe Israel starting this war, which that's basically what Marco Rubio just said, it's only going to cause more Israelis and my Jewish brothers and sisters to come under attack. By starting a war with Iran, this creates more Iranian nationalism. This creates more Iranian radicalism. This actually will create more sleeper cell terrorist attacks here in the United States. It won't lessen them. And already in Austin, Texas, where I was just there on Saturday, on 6th Street, where a terror attack happened, a guy wearing a property of a law shirt walked into a very popular bar and started shooting people. 2 people died, 14 people injured. And the reason why he did that, and I'm not blaming Trump. Obviously, the guy was psycho, and he was brought here under the Biden administration when he should not have been here. But when you are looking at these psycho people, and they're not just on the left, there's some psycho people that don't even have a political party other than Muhammad, who married a 6-year-old, Aisha, which, that's not cool. I mean, I don't like Jeffrey Epstein, but I really don't like Muhammad doing stuff to a 6-year-old, but that's another argument for another day. My point is, all we are doing by starting this preemptive war with Iran is making people more radicalized to attack Americans. This doesn't help our reputation on the global scale. As a matter of fact, it alienates us and puts us in a position where we're forced to be the bad guys with Israel, because the God's honest truth is that the UK was not for this. The European Union was not for this. China was not for this. India was not for this. And they keep on telling us that Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terror and that Iran has caused the death of thousands of Americans with their terror attacks. But if you use that same logic, America supporting a proxy war with the Ukraine is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Russians. So are we the baddies? Or are we the good guys? It's hard to tell because the logic that they use, if we use that same logic, it seems like we are funding a war against Russia. And to be honest, I do think that we're going to annihilate Iran. But if this becomes a war of attrition, similar to that of Vietnam or against the Taliban, it's not going to be good. Because yes, we have a $1.5 trillion military budget, but Iran has been able to do more with these cheap drones by strapping bombs to them and putting missiles on these very inexpensive drones. They've been able to neutralize Israel's Iron Dome system, which is a multi-billion-dollar system. And they're using drones that cost less than $5,000. So mathematically, We're spending millions of dollars right now to stop the weapons of a country that's able to use weapons that cost them tens of thousands of dollars when our weapons cost us tens of billions of dollars. So this is going to become very financially tough for all the American citizens that voted for Donald Trump because he said no new wars. So at this point, I'm all in. Sounds like so is everybody in the Trump administration. But what's going to come next is the idea of boots on the ground is going to be incredibly bad. That is where we will actually lose more than the 6 service members that we've already lost, because Iran is not like Venezuela. These people are willing to be suicide bombers. So they're willing to die for their country. There's no defense to a suicide bomber. These people are so radicalized that they will do nothing short of killing themselves to kill their enemy. So that is a team that I do not want to go against for very long. So I hope that this war ends. Hope it doesn't get drawn out. But what do I know? Like I said earlier, I'm just a talk show host. Well, guys, we got a great episode tonight. We have the former governor of Illinois, the one, the only Rod Blagojevich, coming up next. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Flash a source in the chat. I love Real America's Voice because I can watch news being delivered to me live while I chat with the family I love.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
Hi, this is Becky from the Florida Panhandle, and I love watching Real America's Voice for the programming, the hosts, and my Rad Chat family.
Welcome back to After Hours with Alex Stein. What a great evening. I know it's late. but we have an incredible guest. He's got the best hair, and dare I say, even better than Donald Trump's hair. He was a legend. There we go. He was a legend on Celebrity Apprentice, but he was also, more importantly, the 40th governor of the state of Illinois, and he's here to basically call out the Pritzkers for letting one of the most iconic NFL franchise teams of all time, the Chicago Bears, call them out for moving to Indiana, which is absolutely ridiculous. So with all that being said, let's welcome on Governor Rod Blagojevich. Governor, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Now, personally, I had to tell you, I became a huge fan when you were on Celebrity Apprentice, and then you went on Howard Stern, because, you know, a lot of these politicians, it's like Bill Clinton. I do think he's, probably not a great guy, but he's on Epstein Island. I don't agree with any of that, but he is very likable. He's very charming. And that's what I learned about you, Governor. You're incredibly charming. You're incredibly likable. So with all that being said, I think you got a very bad deal when it came to all the drama and what landed you in prison. So thank God you got that Trump pardon. But I guess my first question is, what are your political ideologies now? Where are you leaning? Are you more center, more right? Like, what is the latest on your political ideology?
Well, thanks for saying that about me being likable, but clearly the judge didn't like me because he gave me 14 years in prison for non-crimes. So that one got past me. But, like anybody, you evolve over time, you learn. And the best teacher in life really isn't books. It's not even school. It's the school of hard knocks. It's life experience. And so my politics has evolved since the time I was a Democratic governor, the first one, incidentally, to endorse Obama, to where it is now today. I call myself a Trumpocrat, a Democrat for Trump. I still believe in a lot of the things the Democrat Party used to stand for, the old school Democrat Party of President Kennedy and even Franklin Roosevelt. But this Democratic Party has completely walked away from those things. They've no longer prioritized everyday, ordinary working people, which is what the Democrat Party used to be. This party's, a kind of a combination of like corporate interests and socialists, and the energy is coming from the Bolshevik wing. They use those tactics that the communist governments use to destroy freedom. And I believe they're a real threat to freedom. And what really frustrates me as a guy that was a Democrat governor, the first one elected in 26 years, is that they will be against anything, no matter how important or how necessary or how right or good it is, if Trump is proposing it. Rather than advance and make life better for the American people, they'll keep playing politics and be against everything. I don't know how any Democrat could not agree with the proposition that Trump asked them at the State of the Union, which is basically the first duty of government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens or not illegal immigrants. So the Democrats wouldn't applaud that. They wouldn't stand up for that. They sat down for that. Their priorities are upside down, and this is not the Democratic Party I was in. So you're asking me, I'm a Trumpocrat. I support so much of what President Trump is doing. And I view him as a very different kind of president than any president we've had in my lifetime. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about that, Alex, the war, or anything else. But that's kind of where I am. And you know what? I've been through a lot, and I've met a lot of people in politics. I knew 5 presidents. Obama and I go back since 1995. I've known President Trump. I was on his show, as you say. He was absolutely right to fire me. And then I believe he was absolutely right to free me from prison. I spent 8 years there for politics, not for crimes. But as a person, and I know these guys because I've been with them, as a person, one-on-one, and what's in his heart, trumps all of them by a long shot. He's far less of a politician than these other people. He does things even when it's against his interests, if he thinks it's right or a kind thing to do. And I think in many ways I'm an example of that, because helping me like he did nothing for his politics. It probably caused him some problems in the Republican Party.
Well, Governor, and I love that attitude, because really and truly, I think most people are in the middle. There's a very few people. Some are far left and some are far right. But the Democratic Party you're talking about, it was one that was against illegal immigration. I mean, Obama deported hundreds of thousands of people. So it used to be Americans' best interest was helping Americans. And now they've just gone so far left where they would rather help out Somali scammers than American citizens and American veterans that are struggling. So, listen, I get it, and I'm not going to judge somebody because, they're left or right. I think that's what the left does, is they constantly put people in a box, and they think, oh, if this guy's conservative, I can't be friends with him. I would say conservatives give a lot more grace, and they don't mind if somebody is left-leaning. But now I got to ask you something. You are a lifelong Chicagoan. Is that how I say that? I don't even know, but I know you grew up in Chicago. Right now, this is such a travesty. The Chicago Bears are potentially going to be moving to Indiana. Now, I have to say this selfishly. My mom is from Evansville, Indiana. She grew up a huge Bears fan. So there are Bears fans in Indiana, if we're just calling it, fair, right down the middle. But the idea of Chicago leaving the iconic downtown Chicago and the Monday Night Football games where you see the skyline and just really giving a great, view of the city, this is really going to hurt the city. So what is your opinion on them potentially going to Indiana?
Well, we need a new quarterback in Illinois. Our governor sucks, and he's the reason we very likely may lose the Chicago Bears. He's been so busy doing what he's doing to try to protect illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities and resisting Trump's efforts to bring the National Guard to fight crime in Illinois and in Chicago, where we average every single day 1 murder a day and more than 600 reported crimes a day. He's against Trump trying to help him do that, and he's against Trump trying to to get rid of people who came in illegally, more than 14 million of them, and better than 10% of them are criminals. Most of them are violent criminals. So those are the priorities this governor has set. And they're the priorities that reflect today's Democrat Party. And while he's been busy doing that, the Indiana governor outplayed him, basically intercepted the ball, and is on the verge of taking our Bears from the state of Illinois. It would have never happened if I was governor. It would have never happened if Mayor Daley was still the mayor. But these two, Johnson and Pritzker, they're just not focusing on the things that mostly are important to the people of Illinois. Now, why are the Bears important? Beside just the emotional attachment that we as lifelong Bear fans have for them. And by the way, they've been in Illinois since 1920. They used to be the Decatur Bears before they became the Chicago Bears. But they've never been anything other than a team from Illinois. And now they're about, it looks like, to go to Indiana. And that's because these guys, Johnson and Pritzker, have been busy doing basically the will and the bidding of the left-wing Bolshevik activists. A lot of those things that they're doing are funded by foreign money and from countries that are enemies of the United States. And as a result, they're not doing their jobs. And for the Bears to leave Illinois is a travesty. And it should have never got to this point. They should have negotiated this in good faith. And it isn't just because we love the Bears and it's not just an emotional attachment. It's a practical attachment. We're going to lose tens of thousands of jobs. These are good paying union jobs, the kinds of jobs the Democrats used to stand for. We're going to lose all kinds of tax revenue when the Bears leave Illinois, which eases the burden on everyday ordinary taxpayers because of that revenue that comes in. Businesses will not earn as much money because you won't have all that activity in Chicago or in Illinois supporting the Bears. So it's a big loss economically, and it's certainly a big loss when it comes to quality of life issues for working people, and it's a terrible loss for those of us who love the Chicago Bears, who, Alex, incidentally, I think are potentially Super Bowl bound, because this new Bear team with this new young quarterback,
they're pretty good.
Young head coach, we are good. Can you swear on your show?
I will allow it. But no, you're exactly right. And you know what's crazy, though, too, is I went to those games with my mom. I went to a Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears game, went to a Dallas Cowboys Bears game. They were both freezing cold, but that's what made it cool. That's what made it different. You're in the cold. Like, that's real American football. So it's a shame that they're building this stadium because they need to make it domed. That's not real American football. But before we go to break, I want to ask you this question. Are you familiar at all with Governor Pritzker's brother, who had to step down from his executive position at a very popular hotel chain because he was connected to the Epstein files? Do you have any information about that?
Yes, I saw that in the news. I read about it. That's what I know about it. And, it doesn't shock me. I mean, this whole Epstein thing, we're starting to learn more and more about it. There's this group of these elitists who are billionaires. In the case of Governor Pritzker, he didn't earn that money. He inherited that money. He was born with a silver ladle in his mouth. And his cousin, I think it's his cousin, that was the one who had to resign from the Hyatt hotels because of those allegations and that connection. But I would only say that we're learning more and more about this group of elitists who aren't with the rest of us, in the neighborhoods and in the communities where everyday ordinary working people live. They have their own lives. They fly private planes and they go all around the world for weekends, and they don't have a sense or a feeling for people. That's why this guy Pritzker, who by the way used to work for me, that's the killer. Had I known,
no, wait, I had to cut you off. What did he do for you? And thank you for correcting me. It was his cousin. What did Pritzker do for you? So did you hire him? You got his start. It's your fault. This is all your fault. I can't believe you gave that fat ass a job. Excuse my French, Governor. But what the heck? So what did he do for you?
Look, I mean, if I deserve 8 years in prison, it would be for that, not for the non-crime that sent me to prison for. No, back then, he seemed to be a sensible kind of moderate Democrat, pro-business. He had what I thought was common sense. He'd been active in political campaigns that helped me. It also helped my opponents a couple of times. That's what he kind of does. He asked me to make him the director of the Illinois Human Rights Commission after I was elected the first time in 2002, and I happily did it. And as far as I know, he seemed to do a pretty good job. He was all right. He called me years later and asked me on FBI tapes if I would appoint him to the United States Senate. I told him that was not likely because I was looking for a different type of candidate. But this is what we're talking about. And I'm sorry that I hired him, but he's different today because he's getting swept up in the whole new Democrat energy. And rather than being strong and a person of principle and standing up for the things he seemed to be for way back when he worked for me, he's just going along with the ride with those radicals because of his own political aspirations. And, if there were some Democrat leaders who had some backbone, like the senator from Pennsylvania, the guy that wears the hoodie, Fetterman, and are willing to take stands against the sort of like crazy left-wing energy that's coming from the Democratic Party, things would be a lot better in the party, and things would be a lot better in America, because those are the types, and I would include me in that, who always try to find common ground with the other party to actually get some things done, solve some problems, ease the burdens of the people, and deliver for the people. When I was the governor and Bush was the president, I'm the Democrat, he's the Republican, I wasn't out there pissing I got to stop swearing. I wasn't out there kicking Bush. I wasn't out there doing that. I figured he could help me, help the people who elected me, make life better for them, and he did. Why would I pick a fight with the President of the United States if he could help the people I've been hired to work for? So Fetterman seems to be one of those types, God bless him, but he's like the only one left in this Democrat Party. The rest of them, like Pritzker, have sold their souls to the Bolsheviks, the socialists, and the communists. And the great irony with Pritzker, if you're talking about quintessential white privilege, it's him. Bolshevik, billionaire, Nepo baby, Bolshevik billionaire. That's what I call him.
And allegedly, and I don't know if this is true, but he had some huge house that had 13 bathrooms, and he had all the toilets removed so that he could say that it was inhabitable and that he wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. So I don't know how much is true about that, but trust me, a guy his size needs as many toilets as he can get. So, all right, guys, coming up next, we're going to get the former governor's opinion on the war in Iran and how this compares to his time as governor under the Bush administration, and if there's any correlation. Coming up next, you don't want to miss it.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. they found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now. Welcome to Real America's Voice Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light.
Welcome back to After Hours on Real America's Voice.
Thank you guys so much for watching After Hours with Alex Stein right here on Real America's Voice. Now, it's Monday night. We had a crazy weekend. Donald Trump just started the war with Iran. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities, sadly, to the Bush administration when they went to the Middle East and started never-ending wars that we left in a very embarrassing fashion with the Taliban, flying and hanging off our B-2 bombers. So I want to ask the Governor Blagojevich, do you see any similarities with what is happening now in Iran and to what happened in the early 2000s after 9/11?
I appreciate your analogy, and it's a valid one. I was there in Congress when that war happened, and I remember sitting in the Armed Services Committee and listening to the Joint Chiefs of Staff tell us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and then thinking they can't possibly be lying to us. And then I figured, well, I was still relatively young and inexperienced as a congressperson, and I'm a Democrat, Republican administration. Maybe some Democrats who had more stature, keep an eye on what they're going to do and how they're going to vote. And I remember looking at Hillary Clinton. She was the senator from New York. And so her husband was the president. They would know. And so they voted for that war, and so did I. We got duped. The Bush administration lied about weapons of mass destruction. They weren't there. If they were there, I think it was valid, and it was necessary to get rid of those weapons of mass destruction to protect the United States, protect our allies in the Middle East, and our allies in other places. So there's an analogy with regard to, the threat. I think, though, it's very different today when it comes to Iran. The threat of them actually getting nuclear weapons, I think, is a lot more real and believable than weapons of mass destruction with Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein did what he did in Kuwait. Then he got his ass kicked by the first President Bush and basically was locked into that place. But Iran has been exporting terrorism for decades. I do work for the president, for the autonomous portion of Bosnia in Europe called the Republic of Srpska. And that place has been persecuted by an Iranian-influenced Bosnian Muslim majority in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, which was created in the 1990s during the breakup of Yugoslavia. Iran is all over the place there. We know what they've done with Hezbollah. We know where they've been with the Houthis. We know the terrorist acts that are worldwide. I'm fearful that among the 15 million illegal immigrants that came to America, how many of those are potential terrorists that came from Iran or were encouraged by Iran to come here? It's a very different analogy when you think about the role Iran is playing worldwide and what it's trying to do with its radical version of Islam. And I would also then say we have a very different president than Bush. I can't believe Trump would suddenly now completely change his views unless circumstances compelled him to do so. When Abraham Lincoln ran for president, Alex, he was encouraging people to not panic, urging the South, we're friends, we're not enemies. We want peace. We're not looking for war. But then events unfolded, and he won the election in 9 or 11 southern states seceded from the Union. He was determined to hold the Union together. War came, was brought upon him. I believe the same thing has happened here. I don't think we'll ever see the time where there'll be ground troops, because that, I think, is a very, very serious concern that you raise. And I think the war is going fantastic so far. I believe the Trump administration with what they're saying with regard to the success it's having. They decapitated the leadership there. So I think it's the sort of thing that at this point, you just got to trust the President of the United States. And the Donald Trump I know is a very smart, savvy, tough guy who's doing this for the reasons that he's enunciated, and that is basically to protect the United States and the world from this terrorist regime, that if they got a hold of a nuclear weapon, God forbid what the nature of the world would be with rogue, evil, wicked leaders like the one who was just killed and the regime that's been running Iran for more than 40 years.
No, and I think you are right. Everything you said is correct. I do trust Donald Trump. We do have to trust the plan. But this is, I guess, my frustration is that obviously, Israel is our biggest ally, so they wanted this. But I feel like this is going to make Israel a bigger target for Iran now. I feel like, I guess my point is, it has the opposite effect that is intended, because, yes, we can beat them in war. We can, drone strike them and all that. But now more people are going to be radicalized to actually do a terror attack. I go to these left-wing protests all the time, and I go to these, pro-Palestine protests. And I said it in my monologue. These people are willing to suicide bomb themselves. Like, that is a very hard enemy to defeat, because we actually value our lives here in America, and we're fighting an enemy that doesn't. So I guess my only fear is that this becomes a war of attrition, where we're just, basically trading bombs for bombs and see who runs out of money first. And I know that they will probably run out of money before America. But do you foresee it possibly going longer than the 4 weeks that Donald Trump has said that it should go?
Well, I don't have enough information to really give you an honest assessment of it. I would say that, it's possible it could go longer. It's hard to control events when they're unleashed in a situation like war. But I do think that once you commit to something like this, as President Trump has, I think he's going to see it through. And he's going to see it through to the end, because there's no point in doing it unless you're going to see it through. And your point about, radical people who martyr themselves and see themselves fighting for a cause more important than their lives, they're very dangerous, and you don't want them to keep using acts of terrorism. On the other hand, you wouldn't want those people to have a nuclear weapon, would you? And I think here again, these are the hard decisions the president has to make. And I'm clearly biased because I have such a high regard for President Trump personally, but just stepping away from it and trying to be as objective as I possibly can. I mean, if you really believe they're on the cusp of getting nuclear weapons, if you've tried to negotiate with them, and they've been jerking you around, not just in the last 6 months, but for years. If you recognize that the other party, Obama and Biden, were paying them off. Remember that? $9 billion to Iran from Obama to try to keep them from having a nuclear weapon, when in fact they were turning that and accelerating their efforts to get a nuclear weapon. When you think about the alternatives and the possibility that, Trump's not going to be president forever, I think this is necessary. And I give President Trump extremely high marks for having the courage to do something hard like that, recognizing that there will be some people in his political base, who are going to feel like this is not exactly the sort of thing that they were, led to believe was going to be what his presidency was going to be. But leaders have to take the hard decisions when they come upon them. You can't always control events. Oftentimes you have to react to events. And here's a situation where they try to negotiate in good faith, the U.S., Israel, and I think the European Union and our allies, to be able to make sure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. They've been lying and cheating and covering up and basically buying time to build the weapon, because they're determined to do it with help from North Korea, with help from China, and maybe even Russia. So, look, it's a hard job being president. You got to make tough decisions. You can't make everybody happy. But I think the long view of history is going to look back on this. And I think I'm cautiously optimistic this is going to work out just right. I think history is going to be very kind to President Trump and elevate him to among our greatest presidents if he's successful in what's being done here in Iran today.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is going to be what, seals his legacy. But speaking of former presidents, and you have mentioned him a couple of times now, Barack Obama, in 2008, he had, so much support. He was so popular, especially within the black community. And then after his presidency, the black community has been very critical because they didn't really get a lot of support for him. But I guess the most important question people want to ask, and it's a two-part question. There are some rumors that he is a little light in the loafers. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but did he ever hit on you? And is it true Barack Obama smoked cigarettes?
Absolutely true for the second question. Absolutely not for the first one.
Okay, good. Okay, that's a fair answer. But honestly, I think he is. He plays basketball and stuff. I think he's not gay because I've seen him play basketball. He knows how to fake it if he is. But now, when it comes to Obama giving billions of dollars to Iran and trying to get peace in the Middle East by giving them free money, what do you think is the worst part of Barack Obama, and what has he done in his legacy compared to Donald Trump's legacy?
A great question, because I said a moment ago what I think President Trump's legacy is going to be, and it's going to be historic and monumental. God willing, this works out, and I believe it will. On the other hand, Obama's was a missed opportunity. And by that, I mean, here we are in 2008. I was there that night. It was magical. Grant Park in Chicago, 500,000 people there. The United States has grown up. We've matured as a country. We've elected our first black person to the United States, to become the president of the United States. Now any child in America can honestly say, I can one day be that, which is what we as white people could say. What a great thing that was. The promise of that was great. Here's where he failed. Instead of bringing our country together and building on that to become one nation under God, right? He divided our country along the lines of race for cheap, immediate, expedient politics. And that's what the Democratic Party has become. And then they play this race card all the time, and yet they do little or nothing to actually elevate and improve the lives of everyday, ordinary black people. And the case in point is how they've set a priority for illegal migrants over and above the black community in low-income, underprivileged neighborhoods. It's glaring what's happening here in Chicago and in Illinois. And the black neighborhoods that Obama came from, which he really didn't come from because he came from Hyde Park, which is sort of an elite place. Obama didn't come from those neighborhoods. In fact, he grew up in Hawaii, But anyway, in those neighborhoods that overwhelmingly supported him and supported me and support Democrat candidates, in those neighborhoods, now it's illegal migrants are a bigger priority than the underprivileged living in those poor, challenging neighborhoods. And in Illinois, under Pritzker, we spent $3 billion.
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, in Chicago, you're right. Now they go viral every week. The city council, the African-American community is constantly getting upset that they don't even have access to social services in their community because the illegal immigrants have taken it all from them.
Right. And the Democrats have been exposed on whose side they're on, right? And yet the black community gives the Democrat candidates 90 to 95% of the vote, in every election. And, I think more and more, we saw this in the last election with Trump, who got a historic number of black votes, more than any Republican since 1960. And that was, substantially more than any Republican since 1960. I think more and more, the black community is realizing who today's Democratic Party is really about. And even the Democratic Party I was in could have done so much more for the black community. Their rhetoric did not match their deeds. Their deeds did not match their creeds. They talk a big, big game, and then they don't deliver nearly what they should to try to provide opportunity, not handouts, hand up, create opportunities in those neighborhoods to give young black people a chance to be able to find employment, learn crafts, learn trades, go to school, get a decent education, which they don't get in public schools, and you have a chance to chase the American dream and live the American dream. But you see the practical, cynical politics among the Democrats is they don't want the black community to be freed from that. It's plantation politics. It's what the first black mayor of Chicago called it, Harold Washington. Just give them enough, but don't let them have more than enough that frees them from their dependence on Democratic Party policies. Because if that happens, they will do what the Latino community is doing, because they work hard and they build businesses. They move into the middle class. They move into the upper class. A lot of them are getting rich. And they resent the Democrats always taxing them. And so the Democrats don't want to lose that. And the way they don't lose that is they keep calling the other guy a racist. And when they do that to Trump, it's really maddening because Trump is not racist at all. And relatively compared to Biden and the 1994 crime bill and Clinton, the 1994 crime bill that condemned young black people, first-time nonviolent offenders, to long, long sentences that denied them a chance at a second chance, Trump is the direct opposite of what those Democrats did to black people.
Guys, coming up next, we're going to ask the governor the hardest question we've ever asked him, and it's about Michelle Obama. I'll let you guess what that question is coming up next.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now. Welcome to Real America's Voice Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
There's a light I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light.
It's a great evening right here in Dallas, Texas, speaking to Governor Blagojevich. Now, you may or may not know this, but McDonald's is actually headquartered in Illinois, Chicago, and the region around it. And that's where we get the hamburger that we all love so much. But now this video of the CEO eating this burger, and it seems like he is disgusted by it. And I'm a little disgusted because the CEO of McDonald's should be like a 300-pound trucker-looking guy, you know, with a handlebar mustache, a real man that actually eats McDonald's, and not this guy in this video.
First of all, let's try to get this thing. I don't even know how to attack it. Got so much to it. Oh, there's also some crispy onions on here as well. I see those kind of coming out. All right, the moment of truth. That is so good. That's a big bite for a big arch. It's distinctively McDonald's. only McDonald's could do this type of burger, but it also is unlike anything else on our menu. It's a delicious product. You know, you've got sort of the cheeses and the gooiness, but those crispy onions as well gives a nice texture. And of course, we've got the pickles. So I'm going to enjoy the rest of my lunch, but Big Arch, try it when you can get it.
Now, Governor, that guy said that's a big bite. That's the smallest bite of a hamburger. And listen, a lot of people hate on McDonald's. Kamala Harris lied. She used stolen McValor to try to beat Donald Trump, the greatest McDonald's employee of all time. So what did you think about that guy? He seems like a Governor Pritzker guy that doesn't respect the Bears and doesn't respect the burger. What did you think about that video?
Well, I mean, if Governor Pritzker was eating that hamburger, it would have been gone in one bite. I don't know about you, but I love McDonald's. I mean, it's American. It's apple pie. It started in Des Plaines, Illinois. And, you know, that's that new burger they've been talking about, which looks pretty darn good. And I look forward to having it. And, of course, you want to have the French fries because they make the best French fries, don't they?
Yes. No, McDonald's is the best. Any McDonald's hater out there is an idiot, and I mean that. And I get it if you're on a health kick, but guess what? You can actually, a guy did a documentary where he just ate the healthy stuff at McDonald's and lost weight. Now, okay, so we love Illinois. We want the Bears to stay, but I got to ask you one last question. You know, everybody talks about Michelle Obama's a boy. We know that's not true, but didn't you see Brigitte Macron's a boy? What do you think is your honest opinion of Michelle Obama always playing a victim, continually going on her podcast with her brother and just acting like she's a victim, when in reality, she's one of the most successful black women in American history?
Yeah, and worked in a silk stocking law firm in Chicago where she met Barack Obama long before, you know, he got involved in politics. Law firms, incidentally, Alex, I had no chance of getting into. I'm not going to blame her for that or even say it was affirmative action. It was, frankly, my grades in school, C-. And then it didn't help when I flunked the bar exam the first time. But, I mean, that's an elitist sort of privileged place to be in these big downtown law firms where she was. And so there was nothing, you know, hard scrabble about her upbringing. She's been the beneficiary of the American dream tenfold. I think they're close to being billionaires. It really is. It just rings so untrue and insincere and selfish to suggest otherwise when she does that, if she in fact does that, and I believe she does. And, you know, I actually helped her get a job. When he was first elected to the United States Senate in 2004, I was the governor, had been governor for 2 years. And I was asked by a friend of his, close friend of mine too, if I could make a phone call to the University of Chicago hospitals and to the Northwestern University, because she wanted a job that was going to pay something like $300,000 a year to work there, because her husband now is the new senator. And, you know, you do favors for people in politics, and Obama and I had a decent relationship, so I was happy to try to help. And I made a phone call. Now, I'm not saying she got the job because of me, but she got hired right away. And that's a big deal.
She got the job. I have to cut you off. She got the job because of you. You don't have to be so gracious. I mean, when a governor makes a phone call, I think that helps, right?
Well, it helps that her husband's going to be the brand new U.S. senator. That helps too. Yeah. And you know, I'm sure she's very qualified. She's very intelligent. But no, you're right. She shouldn't be doing that. And this goes again to this whole idea where they've missed an opportunity to bring our country together. This is the divisive racial politics that they play that's so cynical and so unfortunate, because we are all God's children and we should all love each other.
You said it. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, Governor, before you go, is there anything you want to promote or plug before we let you go?
Well, as a Trumpocrat who loves President Trump and wants to see him be successful, leading our country, making our country great again, and fixing the many problems our country's faced, things that he inherited, I'm helping Mike Whatley, who's a Republican candidate for the United States Senate in North Carolina. And we're doing a fundraising event for him here in Chicago on the 19th of March. And I'm really happy about that. I've met Mike once, but I'm doing this because it helps President Trump. And while I'm a Trumpocrat, which means I'm still a Democrat for Trump, I'm an American first. And if you can help people who can help the president make our country great, I'm happy to do it. So thanks for letting me say that. It's got no relevance to your viewers. If they're around, they want to come by.
No, we got a lot of viewers in Illinois. They're going to go vote for Mike. Now, last thing I just want to say, you know, you got the best hair. You were the best governor. Are you going to potentially maybe get back into politics? Or are you totally done because of all the drama that it caused you?
Well, I don't consider myself totally done, but I don't have any immediate plans. Life is good right now. My wife, who suffered a lot, my little girls who suffered a lot, my wife's made it clear that if I run for office again, I'll be doing that with my second wife. But Alex, she's not listening to this. I'm going to let you in on something. I feel like if I really wanted to do it, it was the right circumstance, and I feel like I could help the people and do good work for them, I think I can talk her into it. But there's nothing in
I think you should be... I think Mayor Blagojevich of Chicago would be a guy that I would campaign for. So I hope to see that in the future. I mean, listen, we need somebody that's more moderate. And I think you actually check all the boxes. You check the left-leaning boxes or right-leaning boxes, and you got President Trump support. So I think you would be, a good candidate for that position. I think that if you were the mayor, Chicago would have less gun violence and the Bears wouldn't even think about leaving. So thank you. Thank you, Governor Blagojevich. Talk to you again soon, and I'll see you soon on the 19th.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, folks, man, what a crazy episode. I love Governor Blagojevich. He's such a good guy. That's the thing. When you meet these politicians, and I say this on the show all the time, idolizing a politician is like thinking the stripper actually likes you. These strippers don't like you and these politicians don't like you, but Rod went through the trials and tribulations of getting arrested on basically a nonsense deal, trying to say that he sold a seat. I mean, that's just politics trying to make deals. So I'm happy to see that. I guess if he got another crack at the apple, I believe Governor Blagojevich would do a job that is 10 times better than the job that he did as governor, because he just gained so much experience and he got really humble, just like every human being should be. And he's incredibly humble for coming on our program. All right, now we got to talk about what is just breaking the internet. Everybody's talking about it. We watched that stupid McDonald's thing, but we got to play this one little clip. We only got, maybe this clip's too long. We'll just play it for a second. We'll just play the first 10 seconds of, you thought we live in Trump's America, but these people at Smoothie King refuse to serve this guy because he's wearing a MAGA hat. Let's just play a few seconds from this clip.
Right? Which is discrimination. Yeah, we're at Smoothie King, and they're discriminating and saying we cannot get service because Jake has a Trump service on. Okay, so you said you were going to leave, so please just have a great day and leave so we can continue what we're doing. We were just wanting a smoothie, and you literally looked at us, and I asked you if everything was okay. You said we don't feel comfortable serving you because of my husband's hoodie. That is discrimination.
Now, the reason that I wanted to play that clip is I don't even want to get too personal, but one of my ex-girlfriends would always say that it's always very sus for a man to drink a smoothie. And after watching that clip, she's right. If you are a man and you're going to Smoothie King, that means you're a homosexual, even if you go there with your girlfriend. So I encourage any heterosexual, God-fearing American men, do not go to Smoothie King, because if you do, that makes you gay, okay? And that's why I wanted to play the clip. They learned the lesson the hard way. It's not just the employees, because believe it or not, if you got some blue-haired barista, she's probably going to make you the best cup of coffee you've ever had in your entire life. But if you're a man and you're drinking a smoothie, you are gay. And if you're a big bodybuilder and I got to put all my protein in it, that's even gayer. That's even gayer. So this is how you frame Mog. You frame Mog with a digital system. If you do it the natural way by drinking smoothies, that makes you a homosexual. I didn't write the rules. I just try to follow them. All right, guys, thank you for watching After Hours with Alex Stein. Thank you to Governor Blagojevich for joining us. And I hope this war with Iran ends soon, but I'm not going to hold my breath. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. they found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no